there, this is Marty from owingsart.com, and today we're going to take a look at these Mijello Mission Gold watercolors made in Korea. So I've been getting tons of requests to review these paints, and I'm finally getting around to it. This is the 9-color introductory set. They come in 7 milliliter tubes. Most introductory sets come with 5 milliliter tubes, so I was happy to get a little extra paint in the tube. 105 really cool colors in the line. Some very interesting ingredients and some things they do to these paints to help with dispersion and things like that. The colors are bright and vibrant. Some, as a matter of fact, are even pretty opaque. They tend to be a little bit on the expensive side unless you live in and around Korea, where you can get them a little cheaper. So we're going to take a look at these today. In today's video, I'll swatch out the colors. I'll discuss the pros and cons of these paints. I'll rank them in the critical aspects, and I'll give you a final ranking on these. At the very, very end, I'll even do a painting demo and put these watercolors to the test so you can see how they perform in a quick painting. So they come in this little box. You open it up and there's 9 tubes in there. Why not 10? I don't know why, but there's 9. I guess they fit right in the box. But the colors are great. In the box, you get a nice variety of color. You get Van Dyke Brown, a burnt sienna, a peacock blue, a rose madder, a viridian, a permanent rose, a permanent red, a yellow orange, and you get a very nice yellow. So those are the colors that come in these. Now, today's gear, I'm going to use this fluid 140-pound watercolor paper. I'll use a Pentel water brush, and then I'll use a Copic ink pen to do my sketch at the very end that I'm going to color in and paint. So here I just cut a paper plate in half for my palette, and I'm just applying the paint right here. I did let these paints dry on this paper plate to see if I could reactivate them later, and I was able to. I'm not going to let them dry here in this demonstration portion, but later on I came back to these paints and they reactivated nicely. Now here you can see that bright yellow go down, and it's really vibrant and nice. Same with the orange and the reds. No complaints here at all about the vibrancy and just pop in these paints. They're really nice. You can see for yourself. We'll get in real close here. I like the Viridian because it's, there's, I think companies trade names between Emerald and Viridian and probably some other names for that green, but this green wasn't so, like, they didn't go over the edge and try to just, it wasn't so in your face. And I especially liked the burnt sienna. It was really, really a nice burnt sienna. And look how well these paints blend and merge with each other. You can see there I used this blue, which they call a peacock blue, and the yellow to get a nice green there. And I was just trying to do a little color wheel, not anything fancy, but just let the colors bleed in a little around the edges to see what that would look like. So I was also able to make with the red and the peacock blue that really nice purple there as well. And they just run together nice. They blend nicely, and I like that about these paints. All right, let's do a quick comparison to some other paints now that I have the swatches down and they're dry. So we'll start off with a look at how these compare to the Holbein watercolors, which are Japanese watercolors, which I just reviewed. And you can see as I lay the colors near each other, they're really pretty comparable. Now, one thing I did notice about these Mission paints is they tended to blend a little bit better, mix a little bit better, and they definitely had a little bit better dispersion, or what I would call dissolving or dissolvability. And when I looked into it and did a little bit more research on this, it's that if you look into most paints, they use, and here's a comparison to Schmincke, which are paints that I use every day in my work. And if you watch any of my videos, any of the paint comparisons here, you can find the video review of these paints online or on my channel. So silicon dioxide is an agent that is added to most watercolors to help thicken them a little bit. I noticed that these paints come out a little bit more runny out of the tube. And so when I looked into that, I found out that basically it's because these paints don't use silicon dioxide. While that may not be a very interesting fact, I think in terms of what the average end user would want to know is, hey, why are these watercolors just a little bit more runny than the normal watercolors I squeeze out of my tube that seem to be thicker? Well, that's the reason why. And so Mission says basically that this really helps their paints dissolve nicely and helps with their finely ground pigments. There's a comparison to the Rembrandt watercolors, which I also reviewed not long ago on the channel, and you can see there they stack up really, really nicely, although I give a slight edge to these Mission paints over the Rembrandts. Some people have said that the Rembrandts are really a student paint, but that's not what the Royal Talens website says, so I just put them in the artist paint category. Now here's some Lucas 1862 Aquarelle watercolor paints as well, which you can get a quick look at. I love those paints. They're nice paints and they're very affordable if you're interested in those. But anyway, I was just going to add about the dissolvability of these Missions and how nicely they just, like when I blended the colors, they just ran right into each other really nicely, and I was able to get a nice third color from just using two colors. So there's a White Nights, which is a watercolor paint made in St. Petersburg, Russia. Also on the channel if you want to look that up. And those are nice as well compared to these, but I still, again, I'd have to give a slight edge to the Missions in terms of just pure vibrancy. Now, next paints we're going to look at are Daniel Smith's, which a lot of people love, and I do too. They're great American paints, and you can see they're on par there with the colors. There's sort of different sets of colors, but one of the things I really, really think stood out with the Missions. Now, I'll give Daniel Smith the edge against the Missions, but the color, the burnt sienna in the Missions is just beautiful. It's just wonderful. Here's the French-made Sennelier paints here, and you can see in comparison to those, the Senneliers have a nice glow to them. They're a luminosity. They're made with honey, and I mention that a lot, but they're really nice paints. I give the slight edge to Sennelier in comparison to the Missions. Now, these are concentrated watercolors. They're Dr. P.H. Martin. They're the Radiant version. P.H. Martin makes a whole bunch of lines of this paint, Bombay, Hydrus, but here's a comparison to the Radiants. So that's a look at just a few of the paints in comparison, and if you look these up, you can, on my channel, you can go to the individual reviews and look for those and learn more about those watercolors. So here's just another quick glance at those. There's the Holbeins. There's the Holbeins, and I give a slight edge to the Holbeins. Schmincke, which I use quite a lot in my daily work, and I just love them. I give them the edge. There's the Aquafine by Daler and Rowney, and they're a very inexpensive paint, but again, Mission gets a slight edge there. Mission gets a slight edge over these Rembrandts as well. And here is the Lucas 1862 Aquarelle. And let's see, what else did I put up there? Moving a little fast. But there's the Daniel Smiths. Slight edge to the Daniel Smiths. Sennelier gets a slight edge over these paints as well, just because I love the glow and luminosity of those. And just sort of an unfair comparison, because the Dr. P.H. Martins really aren't, they're concentrated watercolors. So here's a final ranking. The color was excellent, layering really good, transparency again a 7. The dispersion really, really nice in these paints, and that really lends itself to the blendability. So the way you can use 2 or 3 colors to create another color, or like a yellow and a blue to get that green. Very nice. The light fastness is solid, but again, I have to test these later on my own to see if the company's claims hold up. Value 7 because they're a little bit expensive, and here's your final ranking. Above average, really pretty good paints, and they're the first and only paint I've ever used from Korea. All right, now for the painting demo. I thought I'd just do a little still life piece of a piece of fruit here. This is a banana. I can't remember if it was a Dole banana or Chiquita or what kind of banana it is, but I don't think that really matters in the end. Just trying to get a nice sense of the color here. And, you know, of course, because it's a banana, I'm going to use mostly yellow and green. But I mixed a little bit of the green because I only had that Viridian in this set. So I had to get a nice green, so I mixed the yellow and the peacock blue. And here's a little bit of that burnt sienna mixed with the darker Van Dyke brown for the end here, and just a little parts and pieces here. And then I'll use a little bit of that peacock blue, and I'll knock it down with a little of the Van Dyke brown and a little bit of red to get sort of the shadow here of the banana, the cast shadow. So just a few closing remarks on these Mijello Mission Gold watercolors. They're really very exceptional watercolors, I think, and I love the consistency and uniformity in the colors, but really what sets these apart is the really outstanding solvency and dissolvability, which enables you to blend nicely, and there's no granularity, leftover residue blending these, and they just seem to want to go together nicely. I don't know if that can be entirely attributed to the lack of silicon dioxide, but they just work great. So all I know as an end user, the watercolors are excellent. So the only real drawbacks I found with these paints, and these might seem minor to you, but they're a little runny out of the tube because, again, they lack the thickener of the silicon dioxide. The other one is that some of the colors are very much opaque in nature, and they're not going to be as transparent as you might want them to be. But all of those colors are really spelled out on the color chart in the website, so I think you'll know what you're getting when you get into that. But otherwise, it's hard to find a lot of fault with these watercolors. They're really quite nice to use, and you know, they perform well, and you can see the vibrancy here, and you can see it in the swatches, and even in comparison to the other higher end artist paints. These Mijello Mission watercolors hold up pretty great. I guess if you had to pick on one more thing, it would probably be the cost, right? So if you don't live near or in around Southeast Asia or Korea or Japan, these paints are probably going to be a bit more expensive for you, and for some people that might be out of their budget. But at about 30 bucks for this sample set, that's pretty significant amount of money to pay for a watercolor set. But again, though, if you're getting really good quality watercolor and you are getting the 7 milliliter tube versus a 5 milliliter, maybe that's enough to say, okay, I'll put down 30 bucks to buy a set of 9. Now they come in a variety of sets, I think up to like 40, but with 105 colors in the line, it might take you a while to collect all the colors if you had to have all of them. I find I don't really need all the colors in a watercolor set most of the time, or in a watercolor line. I just I use what I need to do the work I want to do, and I'm not really a watercolor collector per se, but I know some people are, and they want to be consistent and have all the same watercolors, same manufacturer. Well, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and I always love to hear from you. And don't forget to share the video if you found it helpful. That's always a nice gesture. Well, this has been a look at the Mijello Mission Gold watercolors, the introductory set. This is Marty for owingsart.com. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody. Have a great day.